Over the last few months, I've been experiencing this just increasingly more cyclical paradigm where I wake up and go to work and then I'm super unfulfilled at my 9 to 5 and then come home and I watch these YouTube videos where it's like people building a business or, day in the life of a CEO at a startup or whatever it may be. And I feel like they have it so much better, but because what is portrayed on social media is typically the best of everything, the best of people's lives, so it's like the successes, and you only see the startups that are doing really well and have a lot of traction and are series A, post series A, and stuff like that. And it but then when I think about it more, it's like the fear factor of, well, my job right now is cushy and I could just kind of climb the corporate ladder over 30, 40 years and have a very nice life and whatever, but I feel like I would just feel so unfulfilled. And I've talked about all of that before in my first video, so I don't want to go on a whole tangent about that again, but I wanted to kind of divert the conversation more about to just fear in general, because fear is so controlling. And there's something that I've heard a lot of, you know, people say, public speakers. My The pastor at church gave a sermon on this a few weeks ago, and it's the notion of do it scared. And I understand where you come from with that, and like why that's a positive mindset to have, and why that is beneficial for people when you're making big decisions in your life and you're in a situation like myself where you feel like there's more out there for you and you just feel really unfulfilled at the moment. But it's so much easier said than done, and I think that the reason that there's fear behind things is because as easy as it could be, a great decision and you are super fulfilled, or your business takes off, or whatever venture you go on ends up doing really well for you, and you look back and you think of it as a great decision, it could just as easily be disastrous and like completely throw you off course. um and I think that I'm young enough that I would be able to recover from something like that fairly easily, but you just never know. I mean, in the job market today and with AI and everything, it's so impossible to forecast what the future is going to look like, that having this sense of job security and the ability to know that what I'm doing will at least push me out into a an okay career, a substantial career that will be steady and is pretty much guaranteed to at least put me somewhere in the corporate suits of the world later in life. It's hard to disengage from that and to really jump ship, but I just have this like itch, and it is definitely cringe that I'm watching these like YouTube videos of other people succeeding, just like in my room, at home, not really doing much, or like just doing work on my laptop. But I'm not like going out and doing it. I'm watching other people go out and do it. So it's like, what is the point of that? And it's kind of like when you get the urge to like work out at 2 in the morning, and you do a couple push-ups and then you go to bed and you wake up the next day and you're all of that motivation is lost. It's like I wake up the next day and then that fear, or those golden handcuffs, I guess you could kind of say, are like, they're like copper handcuffs. I'm not making, really like, I'm not making 300K a year at my job right now, but it's steady enough that it is. I do feel kind of locked into it. Um, I'll wake up the next day and it's like those handcuffs are kind of reinstated, and I don't feel the like burning desire to jump ship and really like change my life the way I did 8 hours ago. But then the day proceeds and it's the same as the last, and it's just kind of this like endless death cycle of just the same emotions day after day. And I just wonder if and when I'll ever be able to really cut ties with the steadiness of the 9 to 5 and of working at a big company, and really just make a difference in my life in that sense. Because I feel like I've always been just so conservative in my mindset of like doing the right thing and doing what is steady and what is reliable. And it's so difficult for me to, like, for example, when I was applying to schools in high school, I only applied to 3 in-state schools and didn't apply anywhere out of state. The best school that I got into, which I ended up going to, was the school that my brother went to, and it was just kind of like I didn't really know a whole lot about it other than, what he had told me and from touring and being there with him. And it was just kind of like I was just living on autopilot. I applied to a specialty center in high school for health sciences because my brother was in physical therapy school at the time. And so I just thought that I wanted to be a doctor because that's what he was doing. And that was what my parents wanted for me. And they've been very supportive, obviously, since I've deviated from that path. But I haven't really deviated that much. I mean, I went to the same school as him, I graduated, and now I'm working this steady corporate 9 to 5. And it's like, at what point do you break free and how? And I think another thing that's really difficult for me is that I've always been told that I was, gifted in elementary school and told by my parents and teachers and stuff like that that, oh, you're so smart and driven and whatever. And you just kind of, when you have a good support system like that, and it's a silly thing to complain about because obviously people would kill to have a good family and good teachers and good school systems. But it's like you just kind of fly by the seat of your pants and you think that you are this like great student, or you're going to be successful in life. And I probably would be relatively successful if I just stayed the course. But it's like that mindset that has been shaped over the last 21 years is like detrimental to me now because I'm struggling to find the like mindset of just like I'm gonna scrape and claw and go work at a startup and go really like build something and make something of myself. And I'm so confined into like the 9 to 5 world where you just kind of like get a pat on the back and you get your bonus at the end of the year despite the fact that your supervisor has really no idea like what all you've done, or your deliverables have just kind of been like whatever and not really super impactful to the company as a whole. And I don't know. I think that comfort that came from just always being reassured and always being told that you're smart and getting good grades and stuff like that, it has really contributed to this fear that I've developed. And I don't I think that I'll find an answer eventually. And I've really been trying to like reach out to people that I know that, maybe are successful or are entrepreneurial, or, connections of connections, and just kind of like pick people's brains and see if they have any insights on that. And there hasn't really been anything groundbreaking yet. I mean, everyone kind of has the same thing where it's just like, well, just, do it blind, do it scared, and which is great, and I understand the sentiment, but I feel like there's like a piece missing in my psychology that I just can't identify right now. And I just really hope that someday, sooner rather than later, that kind of clicks into place for me and I'm able to figure things out.